There's going to be people that are going to be scumbags. They're going to be scumbags, and they're going to take advantage, and they're like, you got it. You're a dentist, you can afford it. But no,
I didn't think I would ever do a fucking podcast. I didn't ever imagine doing that. It made me realize that my purpose is to help others reach the goals and reach their full capacity. And if I can impact somebody's life, that is bigger than money. That is bigger than anything else.
Welcome to Livestream, where we teach you how to stream your life. How you doing, Jeremy?
What's going on? Hey, can you believe baseball is already started?
I know, Judge. How many home runs does Judge already have?
I don't know, but he hit one in the first game. Like, they're 5 games into this already.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was actually catching up on some sports last night. I cannot believe it.
It's insane, right?
NBA Finals are getting ready to start.
I know, the Heat beat the 76ers yesterday. They're finally coming around.
I feel like the time is going by so fast.
I know.
And I feel like sometimes, we get blinders put on. No pun intended.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
I think that an interesting topic, and I don't think this is something that people identify with that much, is blind spots of a business. Like,
okay.
What are the blind spots? And I think you and I and Sarah were talking offline here, and you have a great idea on that, and how you can, potentially resolve those or prevent them from even happening.
Yeah, I think definitely we got to start with one of our core values, which is accountability.
Yep.
So, I mean, you were just stating, and it's a great point. One of the biggest blind spots that entrepreneur misses on the time clock.
Yeah.
We've had employees that have been clocking in, clocking out, and even though we have cameras and different security metrics to control these, they figure out a way to be able to clock in, or they give the login to a friend to do it for them. And, you're not there, or you left already for the day, or the associate dentist left for the day, or in any business that you're in, the manager can be doing it. So it's very, very hard to catch these things.
Yeah, it is. I know I've heard this. They will never find out, or they're too busy to care, or nobody checks on me. They always spin it in a way that magically they're the victim.
Yeah.
They're the victim.
Or they're not paying me enough.
Yeah.
Or they're cutting my hours, or now we don't work on Fridays. So, yeah, time clock manipulation. It doesn't even need to be like that intentionally. It can be something like taking extra time to write notes at the end of the day, or coming in 5 minutes early every single day, even though we've told you 100 times that your start time is 7:45 or 8:45. But this same employee always shows up 5 to 10 minutes early. Starts having breakfast on the clock, and by the time they know it, it starts adding up. It's a free hour, every week. And it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but over time it starts becoming a lot of money. So that's one great blind spot, that is always happening to entrepreneurs.
Yeah, you mentioned a couple other ones.
Yeah, another one is, the end of days, if you don't have strong systems and protocols on your cash, it's very easy. And people are like, no, we have this software, we have the CRM program that can track everything. But guess what? There's flaws in these CRMs and these softwares like Open Dental, EagleSoft, Dentrix, that they can manipulate and make adjustments if they have those rights. And the cash can start disappearing, and there's no way of you tracking that cash. There's so many dentists that have lost hundreds and thousands of dollars, and entrepreneurs even millions of dollars, by having your most trusted person doing adjustments, and making changes, and taking Billy got this crown done. The fee was $700, but we told the patient it was $800. So you put the $700 in the computer, but the person is taking those $100. That's just one example. So what do you do when something like that happens? Well, you got to be strategic in what you're going to do, because obviously this person is a key employee to your organization. But for me, stealing is a no tolerance policy. I mean, if you're stealing from the company, what else are you doing? For me, that's immediate termination.
Yeah, I mean, there's just no excuse for it. I mean, you put people in these roles to protect you and the organization, and they're doing things detrimental to the organization, so certainly should be terminated.
Yeah, we had an employee a couple months ago that she got caught clocking in, clocking out improperly. I fired her, let her go. She begged. I had employees call me and beg her back for the position. So my kind heart, I gave her another chance. And then within 2 weeks, she did it again. So, I mean, lesson shows you that people are not going to change. And if you catch them doing something like that, then more than likely they're going to do it again with the time clock, or they're going to do it with instruments. You know, there was a period in my time that we had all these instruments were disappearing from the office. You know, I mean, I literally had to do a checklist for every handpiece, for every slow speed, for every implant handpiece, for endo handpiece. And they had to sign because we were losing these $600 to $800 handpieces at least once a week. And then it was the blame game. No, she did it. No, she did it. Oh, she cleaned it last. So I had to go through notes. And eventually we found out who the cancer was. But, you know, I lost thousands of dollars from this mistake.
That's crazy. That's crazy. But you learned, right?
Yeah, I learned.
And, you know, you identified the blind spot, and unfortunately you learned from that blind spot.
I'm not going to say what I learned, but yeah.
I know.
I learned a lot of things.
I think everybody can read between the lines on that one.
You know, there's going to be people that are going to be scumbags, you know. They're going to be scumbags, and they're going to take advantage, and they're like, you got it, you know, you're a dentist, you can afford it. But no, I mean, this is a business, and at the end of the day, that's how we, you know, take care of our patients and how our employees get paid and how we can buy the good materials to take care. You can't be stealing from anybody, you know. It's not a good thing.
Nope, that's true.
But it doesn't necessarily even need to be stealing. It can be like blind spots in your business that are affecting your operations, you know, and are not robbing, but they're not maximizing your operational effectiveness. Or leadership effectiveness. You know, if you have one cancer in your office or in your company, it can destroy your whole entire company. I mean, these suppressive people can go from Sally to Jenny to Nancy and be like, you know, I didn't like this. And by the time you know it, you have good employees that were A employees become B or C employees, and the C employees become F employees just because of this one cancer. So that is very, very common. So those are huge blind spots that you should be looking out for.
I think blind spots create bottlenecks
in
your business too.
And they can create different silos.
Yep. And I think that, you know, like you're saying, the day-to-day operations, you know, is difficult when you run into blind spots. Like, what's the hang up here? Why are there 47 people in the lobby? You know, something as simple as that.
Yeah, and that can affect your patient experience. The patients are not going to come back. I think the main thing you got to do is immediately when you own a business, you got to create goals, clear and concise goals. That is one way that you're going to start eliminating blind spots in your operations. The whole team needs to be aware of your goals. You know, you need to have new patient goals. You need to have production goals, collection goals. And those are metrics that you're going to be using, or KPIs, to measure how your operational effectiveness is going. And if you are making mistakes, or if you have blind spots, a lot of times, you know, we have people in the higher management that are creating these blind spots, and they're not even realizing it because they start one task, then they jump to another one. Then the employee feels that they didn't help them out with this primary task. And by the time you know it, you have chaos and disorder.
I don't want to get us off the blind spot topic, but you know, leadership is a big factor in that. And if you're not a great leader, then you don't understand how to listen to people. And listening also gives you clear data on what the blind spot really is. You know
I think that's a great point. I think I want to feed into that. I think what happens is that people think that you need to be an amazing leader, but then they put the operations and the other stuff to the side, you know, or you're going to have a great culture and you put the other stuff to the side. No, you need to be equally great in all these different buckets, because if not, you're going to develop blind spots, and then they can be financially catastrophic, where if you have a blind spot in your operations and you have somebody embezzling from you, or you're losing patients, or your doctors are not producing, you can lose your business.
Yeah.
So it's very important to identify what is happening and why it's happening. Is it intentional? Is it unintentional? Like, at what point, Jeremy, do you realize who the blind spot is, or creating it, and make a decision if you're going to keep them or you're going to terminate them?
Well, I hate to say it, but I think it's based on a case-by-case basis. But you need to, like, you can't make an emotional decision. You know what I mean? This has to be thought out. You have to, analyze the situation and understand what's the plan of action. And if the plan of action is replacing this person, are you prepared to let them go today and deal with the consequences of that position being empty for a set amount of time? Or do you build this thing where you're like, listen, they're on the radar now, and depending on the blind spot, of course, let's hire somebody, let's get them trained, and then let's let them go, if we're talking about employees.
Exactly. It's very important. I mean, you got to be strategic in your decision making, because obviously if you have 2 or 3 people in your company or in your office creating a couple blind spots, you cannot terminate them all, because that's going to affect your operations.
We've talked a lot about the human capital blind spot, but what other blind spots? I mean, I know we talked about a little bit about operational blind spots, but what other blind spots can an entrepreneur, run into?
Just throw a department at me. I mean, if we go through procurement and you're having blind spots with your vendors, they can rob you blindly. I mean, we've worked with labs that have robbed us blindly because we didn't have an accountable party reviewing all the statements and reviewing all the invoices. So just tell me what department and I'll give you some examples of it, but that's one. Procurement. I mean, vendor relationships. The vendors, sometimes you think they're your best friends, but you go in there and they're by the time you know it, that product that you thought cost $100 at promo is now $300. And if you're not an efficient leader and looking, and your manager and you are not looking at this, what's going to end up happening is they're going to sneak a lot of hidden fees. And by the time you know it, you're going to have financial, you're going to be like, oh my God, my orders are now 6% when they were 3% a year ago.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, accounting is pretty straightforward. I mean, they can financially destroy you. What about HR? What are the blind spots on HR? Maybe the HR manager not telling you what's going on with said employee, and then some kind of all of a sudden a lawsuit, happens, and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, I mean, I think the communication. I mean, if your HR team is not communicating with you, or your manager or your director or your regional is not communicating with you the issues that are ongoing in the organization, how can you be aware, or how can you troubleshoot them efficiently? And by the time you know it, it could become a lawsuit, or it could become something catastrophic.
Yeah, and the marketing. What about marketing? What do you think?
In regards to marketing, I mean, you obviously want to have a transparent relationship with the vendor that you're working with, but you also got to figure out if the marketing company is generating the value that they promised you, because what is the sense of spending $10,000 and you're only getting 10 new patients a month?
Yeah, and I think that if you have a marketing position inside your organization, making sure that they are always part of their responsibility should be
overseeing everything.
Yeah, overseeing everything and checking the ROI on that. If you're not doing an ROI, that's a blind spot.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, we've run into that, right?
Yeah, we have doctors that are not producing, even though they're getting 40 new patients a month. What are they doing with those new patients? So that's an operational blind spot. I mean, you're going to have all these conversations. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but this is going to be ongoing throughout your whole entire career. Meanwhile, you own and operate a business. And even if you're an associate dentist, you want to know how many new patients you're getting, how much is your average revenue per new patient, because if not, you're going to start seeing declines in your revenue and your production. So no matter what you do, you got to be aware of all these blind spots. And even if you're an associate dentist and you have dental assistants that are bad-mouthing you or talking bad, to the patients about you, that can really, really affect you.
Yeah, and we're gonna we're gonna talk a little bit about that too, with respect to, your dental assistants or your front desk people presenting treatment. You always need to follow up with these guys, because that's a blind spot. Oh yeah, Jeremy said no. He told me to call him later. He was too busy to talk. Or there's the excuse-itis.
Yeah, I know.
Tom Smith's word.
Yes,
is rampant.
We lose a lot of patients because our front desk didn't call back.
Yeah,
easily just call them back. And we've given them all these tools. I've given them tools for texting, emailing, obviously phones. I mean, auto replies. Like, there's so many different tools that I've given them, and there's no excuse to not get back to a patient. And you can be losing patients if you're not focusing on these issues.
100%. And I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but you already have the patient in front of you.
Yep.
So why create that blind spot by saying, I'll call you later? Why would you even do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard it, and we've obviously coached in the moment on that situation, but Don't let that happen.
No,
try to be proactive with the blind spots, right?
Just handle it right away.
Handle it right away.
But, it seems like it's not a big deal, but any blind spot in your business or any issue that you're not foreseeing or you're ignoring can be detrimental to the financial health of your company.
It's going to hit the bottom line.
Because if you're ignoring, oh, no, Sally's really nice, but, Sally lost 5 patients last week because of her bad attitude with them, that is a big problem. And you cannot ignore it. Just because you guys have a good relationship while in the office, you cannot let that affect the operations of your office.
Yeah, and I think that's difficult because, I think entrepreneurs, they get close to their team and they really believe that, they've grinded with me, right, through this whole process. And it is difficult to take a step back and understand that, there's limitations there.
Yeah.
I need to upgrade Sally or Joe. You know what I mean? And it's hard to identify that, one. And then two, it's really hard to convince yourself to do that because Sally's been with you, Joe's been with you
for so long. And a lot of times it's been your employees with the longest longevity, and you have the best trust. They've even seen your family. Go ahead.
I think sometimes entrepreneurs confuse loyalty with productivity.
Yes.
They're loyal to me. They show to work every day. They're punctual, but are they really productive?
Correct.
And I think there's definitely a challenge to analyze that.
That's a great point. I want to conclude it by asking, let's go through this. How would you recommend an entrepreneur or a dentist or an associate dentist to have these conversations if they were to happen to them? Because these are hard conversations.
Yeah, they're very uncomfortable, and no disrespect, but dentists don't want to have that conversation.
Yes, they don't.
They're very non-confrontational people. They want everybody to be happy, right? And it's difficult, but you have to be transparent. If you're not comfortable doing it, sit down and have somebody sit down with you. And you know what? Let them lead the conversation. There's some mentor there. There's some internal mentorship there, right?
Exactly.
If you have a person who's strong at communication and transparency and can have that conversation without being, a jackass, right? You sit down with them and you learn from them and use that as a mentorship opportunity. But it's got to be transparent. It's got to be transparent. You got to get that individual to understand what's going on and understand their ways. And another thing, a team members know how to manipulate.
They do.
It's crazy to me. They start crying and you're like, you're robbing me.
The tears, I know
for?
the tears are hard, right? They're really hard.
So it's interesting, and I reflect on a lot of my past life situations that's happened where they bust out in tears and it's just like, I'm having this conversation to discipline you, and now I feel guilty.
And you feel guilty. So, yeah, all right, Jeremy, there's a lot, and I want to continue this in another episode because there's a lot more to this because, like I said, this affects all the different buckets in your company, and it could really affect you financially, and it can set you way back if you don't pick up on these blind spots. So this is a topic for two episodes, but thank you so much for being here today, and a pleasure like always, and thank you for checking in.